Hey, what is up guys? In this video we're going to build a $1,000 liquid cooled gaming PC, and I'm going to show off exactly how to build this computer, all parts featured, why I'm using them, and so on. And I've tested a total of 27 games in Full HD, 1440p and 4K resolution, but yeah, it doesn't stop there. We're also gonna look at GPU comparisons, ray tracing, DLSS, CPU performance, and much more. Now, in case there's any game you want me to include for future benchmarks, make sure to leave it down in the comments down below. If you want videos more often, please smash the like button, subscribe and turn on the notifications bell so that you know exactly when new content is released. For the latest and best pricing for each PC part, have a look in the description where you find every item listed. And today we got yet another monster in front of us. I decided to pick up an RTX 3060 graphics card, which is powerful enough to play at high frame rates at 1440p. But yeah, before we go ahead and take a greater look at the gaming performance, let's begin with our CPU and our motherboard choice. So this is our processor, the 6-core Ryzen 5 5600X, coming in at around $270. Having a look at the competition, the 5600X actually eats most CPUs for breakfast, as can be seen, and in terms of price to performance, the 5600X is actually quite hard to beat. Moving on to the motherboard, and this one is a long time favorite of mine. This is the Asus ROG Strix B450-F Gaming 2, and this is one of the most popular B450 motherboards, much thanks to its reasonable price tag and compatibility. Now, I am demonstrating on the first SKU of the Gaming F model. I do however recommend picking up the newer one, and the difference between these two guys is that the Gaming 2 has a BIOS flash button and support for Ryzen 5000 right out of the box, so you don't have to worry about, having to do a BIOS update, for example. Now, with that all being said guys, I always try my best to present you with the best bang for the buck PC I can, and when there's a cheaper option available, I want you guys to know about it. And if you want to, you can actually save about $30 if you opt for the B450 Ampere Gigabyte, and you find this board linked up down below as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and unbox our CPU and install the processor, and this is all just a matter of powering up the triangle located at the lower left side corner of the CPU with the triangle on the motherboard socket. Pull back the retention arm, line up the said triangles, and simply drop the CPU in its socket. Return the metal arm back down, and that is about it. Now, for the cooler for today's build, we're actually gonna opt for an AIO, which stands for All-in-One Liquid Cooler. This one is coming from Arctic, called Liquid Freezer 240. It comes with two 120mm fans blowing on a 240 radiator. Now, typically for a budget PC build, I recommend going with the stock cooler that comes included with a CPU. But for this specific build, whereas there's not gonna be a ton of airflow, a liquid cooler in these situations can be a pretty good idea. I do recommend installing the cooler after we install the motherboard in our case choice, and so for now, we're gonna wait a bit with the cooler. Next up, it is time for the memory, and once again we're gonna use this kit from Corsair LPX with no RGB. Now, you can obviously pick up a kit with some LEDs if you want to, but this typically adds about $15 to about $20 to the price tag. Anyway, this is one of the best budget non-RGB kits on the market. Now, I'm using a 3200 MHz kit here, and that is what I would generally recommend for most gamers out there. We want to put these in the second and the fourth theme slot, then it's just a matter of sliding both sticks in, and that is it. Following that, we have storage guys, and for today's build or this budget, I recommend spending between $60 to $80 on an SSD. Now, Samsung's new 980 SSD fits our needs perfectly, with blazing fast read and write speeds, and this is an easy pick for today's build. Rather annoyingly, I only have the older one at my studio right now, but you will find the right one linked up at the best price down below. And with the SSD installed, that sort of completes our motherboard assembly, which means that we can finally move on to our case choice, which comes from Colink, and it's called Void X. Now the Void X has a striking front panel with a pair of triangle ARGB infinity mirror panels, accented with a pair of ARGB LED strips that are hooked up to an RGB button at the front. And these infinity mirrors creates a very cool look if you ask me. Now inside the Void we have space enough to fit up to 2 radiators. There is also an option to mount the GPU vertically, however that does require a PCE bridge. Now the case only comes with one exhaust fan at the back, but there is enough space to install quite a few at the front if you want to. And because the front has an infinity mirror, we find the ventilations on this side. Now this is obviously not ideal, but I think we're gonna be alright here. We're gonna look at temperatures in just a second. Anyway, remove the tempered glass side panel, and then it is just a matter of sliding in the motherboard and secure it using the screws that comes provided by Colink. Grab the power supply, install it with the fan facing downwards and secure it. Since I've gone over the cabling in pretty much all my previous PC builds, I won't be doing that in this one. Now you do however find a video linked up down below that takes you through the cabling step by step from start to finish. And now we can actually go ahead and finish up with the CPU cooler installment. I recommend plugging in the CPU fan cable before installing the radiator, as once this one is installed, it sort of blocks the CPU fan header a bit. Once we have plugged in the CPU fan header, we can then install the radiator at the top of the case and then finally install the water block on the CPU. And with our CPU installment out of the way, let's finally take a look at our GPU pick. This is the GeForce RTX 3060, based on Nvidia's latest Ampere architecture with support for DX12 Ultimate, ray tracing and DLSS. Now the 3060 targets 1440p gaming, but it handles 4K quite well thanks to DLSS or Deep Learning Super Sampling, which basically is an AI rendering technology that increases the graphics performance utilizing the technology inside RTX based GPUs. Now taking a look at the ray tracing performance in this side-by-side comparison between the 3060 and the 6600 XT, it gives you a better idea how the 3060 stand versus the competition. Now thanks to strong ray tracing performance, Nvidia is simply put the better choice when it comes to ray tracing, and this is something that I want you guys to keep in mind. As of right now at least, ray tracing simply does run better on Nvidia's GPU. On top of that, Nvidia also offers something called DLSS, which is now supported in over 100 games. Let's take a quicker look at this. So here's Death Stranding at 4K, very high details. On the left side, DLSS is turned off. On the right side, it is set to quality, and as we can see guys, activating DLSS have a nice boost in frames per second. And looking at it side by side, we can see image quality wise, it is very hard to tell the difference, so this is pretty impressive. Now going back to the specifications, because the 3060 has 12GB of memory, you actually have enough to even play at 4K resolution. And to give you guys a better idea where the 3060 stands in terms of performance, here is a pretty good overview. Pretty much up until this point everything is bells and whistles. Because of the ongoing GPU shortage, the 3060 can be a bit tricky to find in stock at the right price of course. and this goes for pretty much any GPU at the moment, and it sucks. Prices are slowly creeping back down again, but it will definitely take some time until we're gonna see prices near MSRP again. I want you guys to keep in mind that the 3060 launched at $329, which is the price tag that I'm calculating for this PC build. Right now, however, it is pretty much impossible to find this card at this price tag. If you don't want to spend $600 or $700 on the 3060, there's several options to get away cheaper, and I do recommend having a look at the 1650 Super or the 1660, and both of these graphics cards are linked out down below. But yeah, keep in mind guys, these graphics cards are meant for 1080p gaming. Another alternative can be to pick up one of AMD's recently released APUs, which has built-in graphics, and you can simply just play on the integrated iGPU. And if you're interested, you actually find a PC build I made using the latest 5600G APU with gaming benchmarks linked up down below. Anyway, if we take a look at the 3060 gaming benchmarks, running a wide range of some of today's most popular games, starting off with 1440p or Full HD, here you can turn everything up to max and enjoy silky smooth gameplay. For 1440p, high to very high settings is achievable in most of the games tested. Many games also offers DLSS support, which allows for higher frame rate, and in some instances, Cyberpunk being one example, it is actually possible to have ray tracing turned on at 4K resolution with DLSS at good performance. Generally though, I do recommend sticking to medium to high at 4K to stay around the magic 60 FPS mark. Now here guys is what the final part list is looking like, and you find the latest pricing and everything linked up down below. Now this video took a lot of time to complete, so guys, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like or a dislike, and make sure to subscribe to never miss any of my future gaming PC builds. Thank you so much for watching.